Okay, I just bought this Red Series S controller. It's actually in great condition. Like it barely looks used at all. There's a little bit of gunk I need to clean off there, but that's it. I just plugged it into Gamepad Tester, and I noticed that the left stick, after you use it for a while, it starts to go real slow there. See that? And it's not registering all the way up sometimes. Oh, there it is. See that? So I'm gonna have to take it apart and clean it. I'm gonna show you guys how I take apart these controllers and how I clean the potentiometers. I've done like 8 of these controllers already, and once I cleaned it with some isopropyl alcohol, it worked fine. Everything else on this controller works great though. All the other buttons and the right stick's fine. Feels really good, very responsive. So, yeah, that's what I've noticed. This left stick is getting stuck when I push up, so it's on that y-axis. The other thing, because the eBay listing didn't actually mention anything about the stick drifting, but it did mention that this controller was not connecting to the Xboxes, so that is another thing I'm gonna have to look into. But I first want to fix the joystick drift. Okay, so this one is a doozy. I screwed up bad, but that's okay. I was able to fix it. So we're just popping off the side plates. Sometimes they're a little bit trickier to pop off. So I like to like rest them on my chest and then pry them off, and that seems to get it. Then you got your 5 screws, pretty easy to get out. Got your faceplate off. Then make sure that you take off your thumbsticks as well. So on initial inspection of this controller looked really good. I saw a little bit of gunk inside the thumbsticks themselves, so I blew on them. And yeah, that seemed to not work. In between, while I'm taking this apart, I was continually testing as well. I have another laptop off to the side with a Gamepad Tester on there, but it wasn't working. So what I like to do is when I figure out which potentiometer I'm going to work on, I like to mark it with a marker so that I know which one it is, because sometimes it's a little disorienting when you're pulling the controller apart and flipping it around, and it's just easier to mark it. So the thing that I did wrong here is I just wasn't careful enough. You can see I popped the potentiometer, and then right there, I saw it. I snapped it. Completely bent, so I just ripped it off, which sucks, but it happens. I've got an entire bag of extra potentiometers that I show later in the video, but it still sucks. It goes from a quick 5-minute fix to now I gotta solder everything off. I've got to solder off the old potentiometer from the board and then get that off. The easiest way I figured out to do this is to add some flux to the pins that you are going to be soldering. And then I also like to add my solder as well to it, because the lead-free solder that comes with the controllers has to be heated up quite hot to work with, and it's just not fun. So I add extra solder, and then I just use a solder sucker and a wick to get the rest of the solder off, and it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So sometimes you gotta add a second bit of solder and then go back in it. So I was able to get it off, though. It wasn't honestly that bad. Once I got the potentiometer off, then I just cleaned up the board a little bit. I didn't end up filming that part. I think my camera died at some point. I had to change the battery. Regardless, I got the potentiometer back in, the new one. I don't know if there's any difference. The new ones that I have, they're white. The little washers on the inside are white, and the stock ones are black. I mean, it seems to work fine for me. So I like to use some isopropyl alcohol just to clean up the board a little bit, because sometimes it, especially when you use flux, it gets a little messy. So after that, I did test the controller and it seemed to be working fine, so I decided to put everything back together. I have to solder all the wires on. They're pretty simple. It goes gray, black, red, black on both sides. And yeah, this is honestly it wasn't that bad to fix it. It happens sometimes when you're fixing things, you accidentally break things along the way. The other thing to remember is before you put the faceplate on, make sure you get the thumbsticks on. I've made that mistake a few times, and then you have to go back and take the faceplate off, all the screws, and it's just annoying. Okay, I got it all put back together and everything works. We have fixed the thumbstick. No more drift here, all the buttons work. I did connect it to my Xbox and it worked just fine. I have no idea what that person was talking about. I played with this thing for like 3 or 4 hours and it works great. No drift, all the buttons work. This is awesome. So I'm gonna get this one listed. Hopefully make 15 to 20 bucks off this one as well. This fix was a great example of sometimes when you're fixing things, you accidentally break things along the way. But that shouldn't scare you away from trying. I had a bunch of extra parts and I've worked on a ton of these already. I've actually gone through, and the first couple of these I tried to fix, I fried the boards. It happens. Sometimes you gotta make mistakes to learn along the way, but remember, that is what it's all about. Learn to fix things.